that it's working properly. What's up, everybody? I got the Smoke Show, David Finburg, here with me today.
Mademoiselle, señorita, any way you try.
We're going to have a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Superstar, no feature, heaven sent you the
Yeah, there's my LinkedIn notification. We're live. I got the Smoke Show, David Finburg, here with me today.
Mademoiselle, señorita.
Sidechain off.
All right, man. Well, let's rock. I'm pumped to talk to you today and just get a feel for what's happening in the universe of SEO. So you're going to fill us in on all the tried and true stuff that actually works in digital marketing. So everybody, please give a warm welcome to David Finburg. It's great to have you here, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me. This is exciting.
Dude, absolutely, man. We're going to have a lot of fun today. So pumped to have a chat with you. I'm going to give a quick intro on you if you're okay with that. And yes, it does feel like I'm talking about somebody else because it's so funny. A lot of times we don't take the time to like actually understand the things in life that we've done and in business that have been really transformative. So I don't know. I always feel that way where I'm like, who are they talking about? Because this can't be me. But I just want to give a quick intro to David. And I'm really pumped again that you're here, man. So thank you so much. I'm just grabbing some notes off my phone. So David is the CEO of and the founder of Peaks Digital Marketing, where he's generated, I'm estimating, because you said tens of millions of dollars. It's got to be over 50, knowing how long you've been doing it for. And I've been in this game for a long time. So usually I'm really clear on how a lot of this works. So you've just done incredible things with your clients. And by the way, you've been making websites since you were 9 years old. That's going to be a fun conversation. I can't wait to dig into that. In 2015, Dave, he founded Peaks Digital Marketing, following his passion really behind helping small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and also enterprise-level businesses grow through data-driven ROI calculated marketing. So Godspeed, brother. Let's go ahead and do this. You digital Sherpa, you. You do such an amazing job. Thank you for working with Tenure, by the way, too, and helping us so much, man. You've been just an incredible, incredible blessing and such a great help to our strategies as well. So thank you, man. Appreciate you a ton.
That. You know, when
it's awesome,
you have a
man.
Great team behind it, and it's two teams like that working together. It's those are our favorite types of clients. So cheers to that.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Love it, bro. Well, I'm pumped to have some conversation today. So I'm going to go ahead and just I want to jump into your story first. So I'm going to break it down for you and just kind of speak to some specific things that I feel like are going to be really powerful for today and for the audience. So welcome to Tenure Tuesday. And let's go ahead and dig into it. So in reading your bio, I think there's something that's really interesting. I've always found this really interesting about you. Your kind of history of where you came from before you, in 2015, before you founded Peaks, was that you were actually a Mercedes-Benz mechanic. So like, I understand the power of a true practitioner, which is why I absolutely love this about you. But tell me more, dude. Tell me more. Like, how did you get started in Peaks? But like, what led you to kind of going from a mechanic at Mercedes-Benz to then like finding your way into digital marketing?
So it's pretty interesting kind of segue of how that came to fruition. And it started, obviously the intro, right? 9 or 10 years old, making websites for friends and family on GeoCities, Angel Fire, right? Like just having, doing websites for my grandpa for $20, right? And having fun doing it. And I really, at a young age, was just a very technically minded person, right? So fixing websites, fixing computers, breaking websites, breaking computers, right? And just kind of trial by fire. And, ultimately what ended up happening is as I grew older, I really felt this sense of this desire just to understand more of the inner workings of things. And I was always a big, kind of car guy as a kid, right? You had the Matchbox cars and all these different, car models and toys. And so it was something that had kind of been on the back burner for me. It was, came full circle when I saw an opportunity to actually go to a trade school and get involved in the industry, fixing cars, right? And so I tell people that, they're surprised when they hear like, wow, you used to be a Mercedes mechanic. What prompted the switch, right? And so it was almost, to me, like going back to my root. roots as a
Mm.
as a marketer, right? Like I started with computers. I took this kind of segue into the auto industry, became a, kind of rode that wave until I felt like I'd reached its peak, and decided, hey, it's time to get back into something that's a little bit more challenging. Kudos to anyone who's an auto mechanic, right? There's a lot of hard work. The great thing about that experience was it taught me a lot about just organization and time management. And so what a lot of people don't know is, we'll keep it kind of succinct here, but you only get paid for the amount of work you do, right? So you're not like an hourly employee or a salary employee. It's like, hey, if you fix 10 cars, you get paid to fix 10 cars. If you only fix one car, right, or two cars, you only get paid for one or two cars. So it was an interesting time, and I had a lot of great mentors, a lot of people that helped me kind of. I didn't know how to pick up a wrench when I first started, so I felt like after I kind of attained the master mechanic status and worked on all the cars and done everything from oil changes to transmissions to tires, right, to electronics, it was like, wow, how do I take this to the next level? So um, oddly enough, I ended up running a small shop out in Harrisonburg, and that was one of the early kind of experiences as an entrepreneur. Harrisonburg, Virginia, was a small, like, little Mercedes BMW shop, and they're like, "Do you want to be in charge of the Mercedes side?" I said, "That sounds like a dream come true, right?" And so, just
Wow.
learning kind of the ins and outs of business, and then saying, "Okay, how, now that I know how the auto industry works and how to fix a car, like, how can I work on other things like websites and just kind of get back into those roots?" So um, definitely a cool detour, and one that helps me kind of do what I do today. But certainly is it's pretty far off the beaten path of digital marketing, that's for sure.
So, I mean, I know that, like, if you're going to be a practitioner for Mercedes Benz, and specifically if you're going to be like working on those types of cars, you kind of have to get like picked for that role, right? Isn't it kind of like it's like trying to get into college? I mean, it's like you really have to be hand selected. Is that a process that you went through? And if so, like, tell me more about what that was like.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting time in my life. I went to this trade school. It's called Universal Technical Institute, and that was kind of your path towards a scholarship, right? Of like being able to go and be hand selected to work at Mercedes, right? Everyone wants to work there, very few actually do. Same thing with Porsche or any of your kind of higher end lines. And in high school, I worked at a Mercedes dealer, so I'm like, I want to do Mercedes. I'm gonna get into this program. I'm gonna figure out how to be the best, right? And that's their whole mantra, is like the best or nothing, right? So it was really cool, one, just to see like the process and the experience that they create and how they pick these people, right? And so what happened is I went to school for a year. You could only miss it was like a 360-day program. You could only miss a few days of school and still be considered eligible to even take the test. I took the test, and mind you, right, like, this was something brand new. This wasn't like computers where I had a lot of experience. It was truly like learning everything I didn't know about a car. And there's all these different areas, and each area has 10 more sub areas, right? It's like, as you go deeper down, you realize, whoa, there's a lot that I thought I knew that I really don't know. And so the first
I
time
still don't know how to change my oil, bro. So it's okay.
well, to each his own. Some people would be like ready to get dirty. Once you kind of do it, you're like, all right, maybe this is better left to like the experts, right? There's not a lot of, you get that sense of pride the first time, and then you're like, all right, this is actually kind of messy, and like, whoa, what am I doing? Anyways, um, long story short, I didn't get in on the first try, so I took the test. I got like a C, which to them is like B's in A level. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to retake the test. I said, hey, I'd love to another opportunity. Like, this is my dream. I'm not taking no for an answer, and give me another shot, and let me show you what I can do. And so I took the test, passed the test, got into the program. They shipped us down to Orlando for 4 months. Up at 6 a.m, very strict. Like, they almost designed the program to ensure that the people that wouldn't meet that quality standard would flunk out or give up, right? And so it was nerve-wracking, like, not knowing if I was
To say
going
the
to
least,
win,
right?
to say the least, right? Then once you're in the program, it's like, these aren't, Hondas and Toyotas. Like, each system almost has its own computer module, right? It's like its own network. So um, there were a lot of great moments where you think you figure out what's going on, and the instructor comes over and just laughs and points in another direction, like, no, not quite, right? Like, this is a little bit more complex than like your average car. So um, it was a fun experience. I'd say that the most challenging part was finding the courage to ask to retake the test. It was kind of like right after that initial failure, that setback, you're like, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I going to do it? And when our hearts are burning for something, we're just like, well, let's figure out a way to do that. So that was a huge kind of learning experience. And then also, I think just the learning curve of trying something challenging, trying something new, and not being sure if it was going to work out, and not being sure if I was going to be a good technician or a good mechanic or not. And obviously, over time, um, I was able to be around some really great people that helped educate me and guide me, and to the point where, I mean, once I was in the shop after about the second year, it was, you know, it was like clockwork. I mean, you just knew how exactly where everything went, and you were moving through, 20, 30, 40 cars a week. No
It's
problem,
crazy, man.
right? So
It's wild.
there's more to it, right? Just like anything, whether it's SEO or social media or car, wizardry. There's that 10,000 hours is real, and sometimes you get someone who's already done the 10,000 hours in your corner, you can kind of expedite it a little bit. But
Totally, man.
really fun, yeah.
So, Dave, tell me more. Like, I know that when it comes to SEO, just like with Mercedes, I mean, there's a certain amount of practitionership that's required in order to actually become an expert, and in order to get an expert result for what it is that you're doing within the business. And I also sent you a quick message, Dave, inside of our private chat here for the room. So just take a quick peek at that. But do you think that there's a way, as far as whether it's quick definition or whether it's primary things to focus on, like, what is the big idea around SEO? How are you able to make people so successful by helping them rank number one on Google? And why is that so important for attractional marketing and or engagement?
So there's so many different kind of angles to SEO, right? And there's always that mantra, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. You really want to be. It used to be, you could just be great at keyword research, or be great at putting content with some focus terms in there, and have enough of an edge to compete. And now, as the market evolves and as the algorithms get more competitive, and as more and more people are starting that journey, today's whole talk, I think, surrounds two core topics. Like, if you're just getting started, how do you take your site to the next level, right? Like, how do you get the right traction, and get there a little bit faster, right? Or more of the tenure angle, right? Which is when you have great content and you have this great team producing that content, how do you purpose that content in a way that really gives you the maximum amount of leverage to achieve the lead flow and traffic and visibility that your business needs to succeed and grow in today's age? And so, there's for those of you watching that are struggling with video, we're working on the video here, but in terms of getting into the meat and potatoes of this thing, there's so many different places to start. And so what SEO looks like now is much different than it looked like 10 years ago. And so there's a lot of enthusiasts or people who are just getting started that know a little bit about websites, and they're wondering, like, how do I, make this cake? How do I bake the cake and have it taste good and have the nice icing on it and everything that's gonna, resonate with my users? And so, what I tend to say is, there are different layers, just like a cake, right? You're different layers of your campaign. You need people that inherently understand each of those layers. And so, when you're looking at a site, you're looking at the foundation of a site. You're really looking at, like, your core basics are like your content, right? And the design of your website and the speed of your website. You can't really have a great cake without, like, a good batter, right? And, like, a good kind of foundation. And from there, everything else is icing on the cake, so to speak, right? Where, of course, you need some backlinks, and you need, all these different areas that are going to help kind of propel your site. So if you're thinking of it as like, hey, I just need to go make a cake and, like, let's do a little bit of everything, it really kind of starts with the basics and the foundation of, like, what's your experience? What kind of value are you adding? What's your content look like, right? How does the speed of your site. Is it fast? Does it allow people to really understand that your brand's going to be faster? Are they going to visit? It's going to be slow, and they're going to think, well, maybe their brand's a little bit slower. Maybe their experience is just a little bit slower, not as innovative, right? And so, um, with these kind of core areas, the most important thing to think about is the amount of value that you're going to add, and that plays into the design, that plays into the types of content you're writing. Typically what I say is start with a really great plan and a strategy and build out from there. You don't have to go and try to make the icing before the batter's complete, right? Don't worry about backlinks until you've got a really great site experience, really great content, right? The right keywords, the right anchor text. And so, if you're looking at whether you've built a website or you're looking to build a website or you're in the process of improving your existing site, looking at it from the degree of what does my foundation look like? And let's start there. Let's get a really clean bill of health. Make sure that there's no broken links or errors on the site. Make sure that the images on mobile look crisp and that you have headings and keywords and things in the right places, right? Starting with just really basic stuff, right? Like you should have your.
I want to pull this back really quick, Dave, because what's interesting is for you and I, we know this stuff, and even for me, honestly, even knowing it, I needed a tap on the shoulder from you to go like, "Hey, bro, you really need to fix this shit," which I love. But you mentioned something very specific, and I think this is where I want to bring it. If there's a doctor listening, or an expert, or a coach, or a consultant, the marketing methodologies and terminologies they don't understand, right? So they're just like, how do I get closer to number one on Google? And you mentioned that the strategies 10 years ago now are very different. So walk me through what are the basics, and explain it to me like I'm in fourth grade. Like, what are the basics that I need to do for search engine optimization so that I can show up on Google more? Because I think it's a really primary question that people ask.
I think it's a perfect perspective to frame this in. So let's take a shot at this. Your basics are what I say, digitizing your in-person sales process, right? So at a very basic level, what are the 5 questions that your community is asking you on a daily basis? Or, what are the different stages of questions that people have, maybe in the sales cycle, in the discovery cycle, right? In the post-sales cycle, and making sure that you have what people are actually looking for using the data that you already have in your business. Because chances are these are what other people's questions, other people in this community are going to have similar questions, or maybe questions that they didn't know that they had around some of these topics. And so at a very basic level, without getting into keywords and all the kind of fancy SEO lingo, boiling it down is what makes a great site? It's great content. Well, what's great content? Well, content that's contextual to the needs, wants, desires of your user, and framed in a way that's easily accessible.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So, typically what happens when you visit a website, and this is, true of, if you're guilty of this, I've been guilty of this a zillion times myself. So you ever read a website and it's all about the website? It's like, hey, we're the best SEO.
Yeah.
Right. We're the best. And here's why we're the best. And here's our great reviews, and meet our amazing team. And like, those things may be true. You may have a really just exceptional business, not to be facetious or like cynical about this, but this is just what I notice, right? Now, what about if we flip that, right? We, instead of making the brand the hero, we make the consumer the hero for choosing the brand, right? And so what that looks like on a very basic level is less I's and we's and more U's, more actionable content, right? And so instead of saying like, hey, we're Peaks Digital Marketing and we're an SEO firm, and if you hire us, we'll help you get more rankings and traffic, it should sound something along the lines of, and underneath all this is the pain point of like, I need more leads and traffic and calls for my business, right? Instead of saying, hey, we are Peaks Digital, you could say something like, drive more leads and traffic with a targeted SEO campaign, right? It's actionable. It's telling them what they're getting. It's empowering them to start understanding a little bit more about like what they need and how they're going to get there. And then you can kind of go into itching the pain point, more of the like traditional marketing kind of stuff where, you never want to just be sleazy and just have like unlimited pain points, but like kind of going into what that looks like. Hey, you have this business, you have this website, and you've got this amazing product or service, and people just aren't finding it. It's like having a business or storefront with no sign on it, right? Here's how we can start driving more leads to your business and what you can start to do to take more steps. And the first step is starting with really targeted content, targeted to the pain points of your user, helping digitize your sales process. You might say, well, I don't know exactly all these technical terms and what, my exact customers' pain points are. Well, let's just take a quick step, right? What are the 5 to 7 questions people are asking on a consistent basis about your products and services? What are the features and benefits they're traditionally comparing, and how are you different? And whether or not your product or service is different, maybe there's an angle, and this is where, as a, working with tenure has really been awesome to see this, right? It's like, how is your culture different? How are your values different? How's your process and the way that you approach your work every day a little bit different? Now we can start to do a little bit more of the selling. And so, if you don't have, incredible content that talks to those users and pain points, that's your foundation, right? The keywords, all of the technical kind of SEO jargon, right? Keywords and headings and title tags, all that can be added once you have that. But if you're just going the reverse end and you're like, well, I know the keywords and I wrote the content that has all the right keywords, and right, it just doesn't convert, right? Well, that's because we're getting a little bit too far off the beaten path, right? We need to get back to the basics and go to like having great content that's compelling and then sprinkling the SEO on top. And so
Huge.
It's huge, right? Because we think of it kind of twofold, right? Is one, maybe we have great content, but it's not in the hero's journey. We're making our brand the hero as opposed to the user. So maybe swapping out some of those verbs, swapping out some of the I's and we's for more actionable verbs, swapping out things for more use, more here's how you can paint the picture of the individual being the hero and what they're going to be the hero for making the right choice to go with your product or service, right? And then from there you can add in the keywords. So
big, awesome.
Big one.
Yep, that's huge, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a common thing that in the contextual frame is very, very difficult to do, is getting the copy right, getting the story right. A lot of times, brands are used to talking about their zone of genius and not really focusing on the hero themselves, which is truly the person who's coming to that site, and allowing everything to be contextual to them. So kind of moving down the path a little bit more, what do you see as the number one mistake that people who onboard with you, so new clients, what's the number one mistake that they've made with SEO in the past?
So the big number one mistake that I've seen is they start focusing on, in this cake analogy, we're talking about SEO being the icing. They focus on having really great icing, right? And their foundation is poor. And we talked a little bit about what that looks like from a content angle. I'm going to challenge everyone to look at this from another angle of, have you ever been to a website and you click the link and it just like takes you to a broken page, or it doesn't take you to the right page, or it loads kind of weird, right? Or it takes a long time to load. These are kind of your next barriers to entry. You don't want your barriers to entry to be the experience of the site. You want to actually be like, is this product or service the right fit, right? So looking at where people have missed huge opportunities is they start building backlinks. They do all the advanced SEO, right? And they're investing in all of this activity. When I run an audit on their site and I check their site out, and they've got broken links and a slow page speed score and things that are basically really detrimental to someone being able to engage with your brand, right? And so you want to eliminate those barriers to entry in a way that is seamless. Like the user doesn't really care what you've done to the site as long as they can find it, right? And so thinking of that is kind of an afterthought. Once the website's done, you're like, it's done, it works. You're not thinking about some inner page that's, nestled deep in the site, or a draft page that someone left that someone might find in the search results. Or there's all these like different scenarios where the site looks beautiful, right? It's just not quite loading at a decent rate, and people on mobile can't find what they need, right? And so the biggest, I think, barriers to entry and the biggest mistake that I've seen is like, don't start focusing on your more advanced SEO, like backlinking or doing outreach and like kind of going to this higher tier of activity before you've ensured that your site has a clean bill of health and that users are once they get to your brand, are engaging with it correctly.
So it's basically like that they jump into advanced strategies too quickly, and they actually don't focus on the fundamentals when it comes to SEO. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Exactly. So, the fundamentals are where you get your momentum, and it's possible to create momentum without having every single box checked. But you'll have like an exponentially shorter path to ROI by making sure that your site is free of errors, that your kind of basics are met. And by basics, I mean, no broken links, free of errors. The site speed's really fast and clean. People on mobile get a comparable experience to what they get on desktop, right? Everything just kind of works and flows. It really doesn't make sense to start trying to add traffic to the top of the funnel if they're just leaking out the bottom, right? And so
that's well said.
It's not something that people are always aware of. They're still getting leads. They're still getting, right. It's not like, oh, I know I have this big hole in my bucket. What it is like, oh, I didn't realize that I could be 20 to 50% better in these 4 areas, and that might transform my business instead of just putting more quarters into paid traffic or into SEO. Why don't we try to, fix up what we have and make the best experience possible for our users?
I love it, man. So that's huge. I think that's really, really great advice and good feedback as well. So let's just get, I got a couple questions left for you, and then we'll jet. But this has been incredibly valuable. I know the number one question that everyone is sitting there right now wanting the answer to is, how do I get onto the first page of Google? So is there a roadmap that you either want to share, or is there a process that someone can follow? Do you have a resource, or even if it's top of mind, what's the 3-step process?
So the 3-step process is, it's pretty simple. Does your page, it's called what they call a search or task accomplishment. It's a fancy word for, does your page solve the user's query? So pages that make it, only 10% of websites, 90% aren't going to make it to page 1, right? So what's at stake here is like pretty big. We need to think of it and approach it in that manner of this. It might not be a quick, easy thing. But if you approach it in a scalable way, which is, what is our website experience like? Great. Let's say we both have great websites. Cool. Next thing would be content. All right. So is your content, are there any unique angles to your content that people might not find anywhere else? Or maybe you did some analysis of the market. Maybe you did your own survey, your own data sample, or you're referencing a sample that may be in the industry in terms of trying to have some authority, right? So if we're talking about outsourced accounting, knowing that 80% of businesses are considering outsourcing in 2021 or whatever the stat might be, may be a nice, credible kind of third-party approach. So I know that we have a lot of different kind of strategies that we talk around content. But one is like, how do we offer something that no one else offers? Right? If we're trying to be in that 10%, we need to be an outlier. And so what I love to do is do a lot of research, do a lot of homework. What kind of resources are people engaging with? What's on the first page already, right? Are people creating infographics? Is there, just a very comprehensive manner in which they're talking about a subject and giving you all of the supporting research and details that you might need to make an educated decision? And so I think a lot of it is data aggregation, right? Like, add the most value, find the stats, find the white papers, find the articles and the guides that are really going to make a difference for your user base, that they ultimately aren't going to go do the research themselves. So some will, right? But like, what if you could aggregate all that for them and just create this exceptional experience and content, and have the right offers and have the right supporting information to match that offer to the pain point, right? And just kind of working through the I'd say the process of creating best in class content. So if you can be better than your competitors, I mean, some people do this with quizzes and games and surveys of like, not only are they providing you with great information, by the way, we have a survey, we'd love to know what are the top, questions that you have about this product or service. And then they use that survey in a way that provides some initial, some original research and some initial kind of data points that they can then reference in another article. And so, for people that want to get on page 1, right, it starts with great content. If if you're great at one thing, make it content, right? Do what other people aren't doing. There's this Brian Dean is a good person to follow in the SEO space. He talks a lot about the skyscraper technique, taking articles and pieces of articles and kind of continuing to build on that topic. I would also say take a look at like Ahrefs or SEMrush are two good SEO tools where you can scan your site, see what kind of foundational errors are present, making sure that all those are cleaned up. And um, you know, as you create great content, as you create a great site experience, you'll start to naturally get backlinks, right? You can start to post your content on social media and forums, do outreach, and kind of spread your message to communities that you feel that your content would add some value to. And that's really all it is networking, right? Link building is a fancy term for networking. And so if we can, go through and create great content that people want to link to and that people find authoritative, that actually helps them find the right answers in a digestible, low friction manner, right? We've got, a fast site that doesn't have any broken links or errors or things that would turn someone away from the brand or turn someone off from the brand or prevent that conversion from happening. And then spreading that message within your community, right? And so who are the other thought leaders and blogs and resources and places that, ultimately, if this is great content, are really going to cherish that content, spread it around, and it's going to add some value to their user base as well. And if you can do those three things, you will get on page one. You will have content that we call as evergreen, that lasts the test of time over Google, right? You may need to go and update that. For people that already have great content, this is kind of the second kind of component, and we'll keep this pretty short, but you'll want to go in and repurpose that content, right? So if you did a video with tenure, you did your own blog, and maybe it got some traffic over time, over the last 6 months or the last year, just hasn't quite hit the marks that you wanted to hit or isn't getting the lead flow, go in and update and refresh that content, right? You can go and add in some headings with some keywords in there, right? Make sure there's some keywords in the title. Don't make it all keyword focused, right? Make sure it's the icing on the cake. Repurpose some of that. Name a few images, some keywords, and some file names that kind of tell Google more about what your page is about. And then why don't you go through the first page and look at what other people have mentioned and see if there's any things that they're missing, or see if there's any of those points that are missing in your article that ultimately algorithmically you'll be able to compete at a level playing field. And if you do those things, you will. Google rewards people for. I would say there's no 10th place trophy, right? Like. There's a joke in the industry, where's the best place to hide a dead body? It's kind of a cruel joke. They say it's on the second page of Google. Like, not a lot of people go to the second, third, and fourth pages, right? On the other end, Google will continually split test and reward sites that are making improvements and making changes. So if you add new content, guess what Google is going to do? They're going to try to serve that content to more people. Whereas if it's just kind of stagnant and has been updated and maybe it's a little stale, Google's not going to. There's really no point for Google's just trying to provide the best experience, right? So they're not going to show that content any more than they otherwise would have. But if you update it and you repurpose it and you add some signals, you'll have a really great shot of getting that article to stick.
Love it, man. Incredible. Awesome advice today, David. You've literally blown my mind. I'm trying to keep up with the first 2 points. And then it's just keeps going, dude. So there's so much knowledge. There's so much understanding. And again, I mean, you got our site ranking immediately. I remember sending you a screenshot. I'm like, where did these 4,000 visits come from? So you've just done an amazing job with us. And we're so grateful to have you as part of Tenure as well. If there's somebody who's watching right now who is looking for someone to help with their SEO, can you give just a quick invitation to somebody who's looking for that and just suggest how you can help them?
Yeah, if you're looking for better SEO, or you're looking to kind of take your SEO up a notch or two and take your game to the next level, check us out at www.peaksdigitalmarketing.com. You fill out a contact form. Myself or someone from the team will reach out to you. We've had a lot of help in this industry, and we really believe in offering value and help to others. So if God forbid we can't help you, we can find someone who can. That said, 9 times out of 10, we'll be a great fit. We'll have a great onboarding process for you where we can uncover some goals, set some, initiatives, and just see where the places that need a little bit more focus and need a little bit more love. And, we just start with a free audit or start with some kind of onboarding where we can sit down with you and uncover some metrics around your business and provide some hopefully unique insights around what's working and what's not.
Awesome, man. So people can request a free audit with you. So I think that's pretty incredible. So reach out to David, either here on Facebook, YouTube. You can look up David Finburg, LinkedIn as well. So just feel free to reach out. He's also on Twitter. So feel free to reach out to him there as well, and request a free audit. I mean, it'd be huge for you to have insight. It's like going to the doctor when you have a consistent problem and you're like, what is the issue? It's like, well, go to the person who understands the source of the problem so that they can help you get to the next level. And I think that's what's most important. So, David, thank you again so much, man. We appreciate it. I know the whole fam at 10 years been watching and being a part of this as well as everybody else. So thank you so much, dude. Much love to you. And we'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.